Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. Patch 6.22 or 6.22 has been out now for about a week. It was a huge patch, a lot of big changes, a lot of new assassin reworks, new items, even jungle plans, and a whole bunch of things that definitely shifted the meta and made things more confusing. But whenever such a big patch rolls out, it definitely begs the question, what exactly are the strongest champions currently in this patch or in this meta? What should I be playing? What should I be watching out for? What should I be banning? Well, hopefully this video will give you a better idea on all of those questions, and essentially I'll be going over the champions that I personally feel are very strong this patch, if not even maybe overpowered or OP, so that you know exactly what to expect, you know what to maybe pick up, what to practice, what to watch out for, what to ban, and things like that. So if you guys end up enjoying this video and want more like it for future patches, let me know by simply hitting that like button. But without further ado, let's get right into the list. So let's start things off by going into the jungle, and the first champion I want to talk about is going to be, unfortunately, Rengar. So with the assassin update, Riot's purpose for it was to try and make assassins more flexible in the sense that, yeah, there's a lot of things they can do, but at the same time the players facing the assassins have more time to react and they actually have some form of counterplay. Well, there has been a lot of talk about Rengar's rework and just simply questioning whether or not that was successful, because at the moment he definitely still feels like someone that can easily one-shot you, but there's actually also a little bit of a twist. There are two current ways to play Rengar. Either you play him full assassin mode, just going straight for that crit and that one-shot potential, or you play tank Rengar, which in my opinion might be even stronger or at least more annoying, and we'll talk about that later on. But all in all, this is a very strong champion currently. You should definitely be banning him, picking him up, or having him on your team or something of the sort, and not something that you might want to face. So let's quickly talk about what you want to do when playing Rengar. So the first one we'll talk about is the regular kind of standard assassin Rengar, the full AD. And it's of course going to consist of damage items like the Warrior Enchant, Youmuu's Duskblade, Infinity Edge to empower your initial crit damage from your ultimate, maybe something like Ravenous Hydra to just further increase your overall burst. And without question you want to take Thunderlords just because it simply adds more burst. Now the runes and the way you want to level up your abilities does remain constant depending on whichever build you're playing, but let's quickly talk about the tank Rengar. Some of you may have seen me face this in one of my Masters games, and I mean, this thing is absolutely ridiculous. I remember seeing some Reddit posts about it and I didn't really believe it. I'm like, there's no way in hell Rengar is back as a tank champion after an assassin update, but unfortunately it seems to be the case, and this is how the build can look like. Black Cleaver, Sterix Gauge, Deadman's Plate, obviously Cinder Hulk. You still want to get that IE somewhere in there just so you actually still have some serious damage output, but pretty much every single other item is going to be either a full tank item or a combination of tank and offensiveness. But let's move along to the next champion in the jungle, which is going to be, surprisingly, Ivern. When Ivern was released, everyone looked at him as a troll or joke type champion. No one really took him too seriously, but ever since the changes to the jungle, this guy just out of nowhere went to the top of the tier list, and now he's considered to be one of the better, if not best, junglers at the moment. One of the reasons for this, in my opinion, is just the jungle is kind of a bit more difficult to clear now since the Krugs constantly split. You have a lot more Raptors to kill, but luckily for Ivern, it doesn't change whatsoever in terms of how fast he's clearing them. He still puts his little mark down and he still kills them just as fast, no matter the difficulty. And he also utilizes one of the new support items, Redemption, quite effectively, and just a combination of that plus people finally understanding the champion makes him quite strong. So with all that being said, let's take a quick look at the Ivern build. So the items are just kind of a mix of AP and support items. You get a little bit at the beginning and then you transition into this useful support type role with the Locket, with the Redemption, and things like that. There's also two different types of masteries you can take, and the reason I put two of them is because honestly I don't really play Ivern personally, so I'm not 100% sure which one is the better option, but from my research and from seeing people play him, these seem to be the two common ones. One is sort of a more personal keystone, the one that shields yourself and it helps you a little bit more to be aggressive, and Windspeakers is a bit more of a utility one, so if you want to trust your team a bit more and you want to help them rather than always help yourself, Windspeakers might be the better option. Either way though, Ivern is definitely looking quite good at the very moment, so if you ever wanted to pick him up, now's probably your chance. But moving along to the third champion we'll be talking about also in the jungle is going to be Hecarim. Hecarim has been a top tier champion for the past couple of patches now, even before all of these huge changes to the jungle, to the assassins, and everything of the sort. He provides a lot. I mean, he's a very tanky champion. He still has a lot of damage in his skid, especially with how he builds his items. He has a lot of range, he has a lot of gap close, he's got good stick potential, and especially now with the new keystone in the defensive tree, he arguably even became a little bit stronger. I still see him being picked quite often or even banned quite often, and whenever he is in a game, he's still very annoying and difficult to play against. So all in all, Rengar was very strong prior to this huge patch, and he's still very strong currently, just because also of how well he can clear with all of those raptors, all of those Krugs respawning thanks to his Q ability. So with all this being said, let's get on to his build. So like I said, for Hecarim's items, you want to have a combination of damage and tankiness, so you go for that Cinder Hulk, Red Smite, Trinity Force, Deadman's is great, Spirit Visage, you have maybe something like a Youmuu's if you really want to, a Guardian's Angel, just a nice overall mixed sort of hybrid damage build. And you can see for the masteries, you want to take that Courage of the Colossus, the new keystone, because Hecarim is just insanely good at proccing it. All you have to do is just ult into a team fight, your ult obviously instantly fears people, and that's considered a hard CC, instantly proccing that keystone and making you insanely tanky while still doing a lot of damage. But let's move on to the next champion. Once again, it's gonna be another jungler, but this is the last jungler champion we'll be talking about. And it's none other than Vi. So this one's a little bit more of a risky pick in my opinion. I mean, it's not 100% that she is completely overpowered or anything like that, but she does feel like someone that's coming up and becoming very strong. I'm starting to see her slowly but surely, and one of the big reasons for this is also that new keystone, Courage of the Colossus. Because what does Vi have to do to proc it? Well, she can either land her Q, or she can just press her R button, which is a point and click ability, and as long as people are around the target that you just ultied, which chances are they will be, because if you use it on an ADC, or maybe the squishy mid laner, the enemy team will probably group around you because they want to kill you the second you land from your ultimate, which in turn will also heavily proc that keystone. But Vi is also quite good when it comes to clearing AoE camps because of the combination of her Q ability, which lines everything up, followed by a smack of the E or two. So all in all, she definitely feels up and coming. She has the great keystone synergy, she's able to clear the new jungle camps fairly easily, and the items seem to work quite well on her, also going for that sort of hybrid tankiness and damage output type build. So taking a very quick look at her build, you can see that you have the warrior enchantment, you have also that Trinity Force, and for the most part, it seems awfully similar to the way you would build Hecarim. You just go for warrior instead of Cinder Hulk, but if you so choose, you can without question go for Cinder Hulk instead. But other than this, the build is not too far off from the way you would want to build Hecarim. But let's finally move out of the jungle and let's quickly go over to the mid lane, where the first champion I want to talk about is going to be LeBlanc. So back when I made my video talking about all the assassins and sort of rating them in order from weakest to strongest, I actually ended up putting LeBlanc as the weakest of the big four. And even though I still feel like there's champions that are potentially stronger, I will admit that she's definitely much stronger than I thought she was initially. And the main reason for this is because of a trick that you can do with her that I never knew you could. Now I don't want to go over this trick in this video because there is a lot to talk about, and I do plan on making a standalone video specifically for it, but know that this trick will definitely increase LeBlanc's power by quite a bit. But on top of this, LeBlanc still has that fantastic new wave clear with the combination of her W followed by the Q jumping on every single passive attached minion and champion. She has great harass in the laning phase, and her E ability, which I personally like to max second. One of that will be able to do a lot of damage since it perfectly combos in with your passive. So it does seem like LeBlanc in the right hands is insanely scary, but she does take a bit of practice to get used to. Taking a quick look at her build, you want to go for that Thunderlords, you still want to go for Abyssal Scepter if you're laning against an AP mid laner. Other than that, you can just maybe skip it and get a Zarnias at the very end, but without question, you want Morale Anomicon, your boots of choice, usually being Sork boots. And if you decide to skip the Abyssal Scepter, personally, I like to go for the Lucidity boots to get that 40% CDR at level 18, but you can always switch it up if you so choose. But let us stick in the mid lane for just one more champion because I want to talk about Syndra. So if you've been playing League for at least the past couple of weeks or so, it should be no surprise that Syndra is a top tier mid laner. She has been for a very long time now, and she still currently is, even with the assassin meta. The reason is quite simple. She has a lot of damage, she has a fantastic laning phase, she's got that CC to stop the assassins in their tracks, and she's also got that huge burst which can arguably even be higher than most assassins. She pretty much has the tools to be more or less an assassin type mage. So there's nothing much more to say other than the fact that she is still very strong. She hasn't really received any nerfs from what I'm aware, so without question, Syndra is still a top tier mid laner, probably someone you want to ban or maybe pick up for your team, and you should definitely watch out for her if she's on the enemy team. And taking a look at her build, it's not too far off from what you want to do on LeBlanc. You still want that Thunderlords, but with her you want to get the Abyssal Scepter if you're laning against an AP mid laner as well, but later on you want to go for that Rallies because it brings a lot of sweet utility to your kit, and it makes landing your stun that much easier. Alright, so there's still 2 more champions to talk about before we go into 2 honorable mentions, and this one will go all the way to the top lane and talk about Jace. This guy is in a very similar situation with Hecarim and Syndra. I mean, he has been strong for a couple of patches now, and still at the very moment, he is still a very strong champion. Especially now that he can utilize that new AD item Edge of Night if he's ever facing an AP top laner, or if there's a lot of AP champions on the enemy team. This just kind of makes his power spike and just makes him a stronger champion overall. His laning phase is still one of the best in the top lane. He has an insane amount of damage, he has fantastic poke, and he's extremely strong when it comes to split pushing because of how just good he is when it comes to destroying towers thanks to his W in ranged form. So all in all, he just has a lot in his kit, a lot of damage, and he can utilize the new items brought in for the AD assassins. So now let's take a quick look how you want to build him. Thunderlords definitely seems to be the best choice just to add to that extra burst that you can do, and it makes your laning phase that much more deadlier. And like I said, for the items, you can without question utilize that new Edge of Night. So going maybe something like Youmuu's Edge of Night, Black Cleaver, Last Whisper, and then maybe a Bloodthirster to top it off and get some of that life steal going. I mean, you have a lot of damage, you have sweet scaling armor penetration, and you will be doing a lot of damage early game and late game. Now the final champion I want to talk about before we go into 2 honorable mentions is all the way down in the bot lane, and it's going to be Vayne. With the assassin meta currently, I mean, they're obviously meant to be able to destroy ADCs, so if you're ever playing Jhin or Varus or maybe MF or Ashe, well, someone like Zed, Fizz, LeBlanc, Katarina, they'll jump on you and they will kill you, so you need some sort of counterplay. Luckily for you, Vayne for an ADC is the best answer. She is one of the few ADCs that can actually duel assassins and even win and beat them. She's very strong, she scales insanely well into late game, and currently there's a very popular Vayne build where you go Static Shiv Infinity Edge for the first 2 items. You max out Q first, and that first auto attack you do with the Static Shiv proc is absolutely ridiculous. So all in all, she's just a good answer to the current meta, so if you play ADC, this is the champion you probably want to pick up. But taking a quick look at what you want to do on Vayne, like I said, for the items, rushing things like a Static Shiv Infinity Edge with the Zerker boots gives you that huge power spike in damage. And Warlords is great for the masteries because your laning phase is still a little bit subpar, so the lifesteal from this keystone is definitely going to help you sustain. Now right before we end off this video, there's 2 very quick honorable mentions that I want to talk about. The first one is going to be Talon. Now when I was looking at all the win rates, Talon seemed to be abysmally low. I mean, I was really surprised at how low his win rate was considering he's pretty much always banned. So because of this, I decided to put him in the honorable mentions just to be safe. But I personally still feel like he's a very strong champion. He's extremely obnoxious to play against because of his new parkour ability, and he's one of those champions that it's probably better to just ban him out or pick him rather than let him through and have to maybe deal with his annoyingness. But the second honorable mention that I want to talk about very quickly is Twitch. Now I personally feel like Vayne is a better ADC than Twitch, but I've been also seeing a lot of Twitches lately, and he does an obnoxious amount of damage to the point where he doesn't even need that many items. I mean, I've even seen Twitches with just a Blade of the Rune King already just annihilate team fights. So when it comes to the assassin meta, if he uses his Q well enough, I mean, he will avoid a lot of damage and he will come into the fight just late enough for the assassins not to have that full combo to kill him. So Twitch is a pretty good answer as well. But either way, guys, I mean, that is about it for this video. There you have it, the new champions that are just simply very strong in this current patch, the ones that I believe you should watch out for, play, ban, and all that good stuff. If you did enjoy this video and want more like it in the future for other patches, let me know by hitting that like button. Let me know down in the comments below what do you think is the strongest champion currently in this patch. But either way, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to share this with your friends so everyone knows exactly what's strong in this current patch, and I hope to see you from my next video. Peace.